Hey everybody, welcome to the show, Around the Nation, KYT Nation. So, okay, so there's a little bit of confusion that I caused. I apologize for that. So I said there wasn't going to be a show today. That's because I've been running all over town, all over hell all day today. But I just, I got home and I decided, fuck it. We've got news. We have news, so I got to do some news. So I threw together some segments, and, with the time that I had, and look, I don't have a lot of segments, but I've got segments, so we're going to talk about those. Very important stuff that's happening today. We have a big SCOTUS case, we got the UN on poverty, and then I want to talk about Jon Stewart. So we've got those today. I know it's not going to be a full hour. As I said, I didn't have the normal time that I took to prepare my show. And definitely not on time, so that sucks. I'm sorry, guys, but I mean, and I originally thought that I wasn't gonna have time, but I made time. So, I'm like trying to get a show for you guys today. So here we go. Thank you guys by the way, for tuning in. Again, sorry about that. All the confusion and all that, but I wanted to give you guys something for today, even though I had planned to not be off. So, okay. Anyway, so first, let me go into Super Chat here. I just got one from Ryan Lowe. Thank you, Ryan. He says, "Here's to a worthy cause and to one of my favorite YouTubers." Well, thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate that. That is awesome and very, very wonderful of you. Thank you. That's what helps keep us going. Okay. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into some cakes. And cake's one of the things that I love. So, this is a story that I believe will probably infuriate you. All right. So, let's get into it. All right. So the Supreme Court just handed down a pretty big decision today. They have ruled in favor of a Colorado baker who refused to bake a wedding cake for a same-sex couple over their religion. Oh, it's my religious liberty to not have to bake a cake. Here we go again. Now, this is a 7-2 ruling. Now, I love how the media is like, what? Narrow ruling. Narrow ruling. Well, the ruling itself, to be honest, is just really, and I'll explain a little bit more why they call it narrow, but as far as a win, I mean, 7-2, that's a big win. So I'm going to explain why. Now, in this ruling, the court held that the Colorado Civil Rights Commission showed hostility towards the baker, Jack Phillips, based on his religious beliefs. Now, this ruling was written for the majority by Justice Anthony Kennedy. Now, he held that members of the Colorado Civil Rights Commission showed animus towards Phillips, specifically when they suggested his claims of religion were made to justify discrimination. But wait a minute, that is the reason. That is what happened. It is justification for discrimination based on your ancient religion. Now, your ancient religion is not the religion of the country. It's not the religion, I'm assuming, but I could be wrong. There are gay Christians. I'm assuming it's not the religion of the people who are trying to get a cake. So why should we have to follow someone else's religion? I don't really understand that. No, what this is that, of course, it's another case of somebody selectively cherry-picking the Bible to justify discrimination. If you're in the service industry, for example, you bake cakes, or you make pizzas, or whatever, right? And you get paid and contracted to do a service that you normally offer, well, then you do your service. You honor the contract, regardless of your beliefs. That's how it's supposed to work. However, according to the court, in this specific decision, right, and that's where the narrow part comes in, because they specifically aimed it towards this cake shop. They said that the work of Jack Phillips is considered an art form. Oh no, it's art. Cake is art now. Really? I mean, sure, that's an interpretation, and it's certainly the interpretation of the court, but I don't believe it's art. It's a cake. Now, let me give you a quote here from the representation here. This is the Alliance Defending Freedom. That's funny. Senior counsel Kristen Wagoner. She said, quote, creative professionals who serve all people, which it's pretty clear that he did not serve all people, should be free to create art consistent with their convictions without the threat of government punishment. So now it's art. So if you create any sort of thing that you could say is art, then you could basically use this case as precedent and say, oh, look, the guy who didn't want to bake cakes for gay people, well, it's because he was creating art. Well, I create mugs, and I don't want to sell it to homophobes. What? Those are my beliefs. They're sincerely held beliefs that I think homophobes are terrible and that I don't want to sell things. Hey, man, it's my art. It's my art. And so what else is art? I mean, designer shirts, company logos, television shows. Should they not have to, or should they basically not hire people who are gay? You can't work on my show. It's art. And I hate gay people. I mean, what is it? I mean, what about Starbucks cups? Conservatives would love to get riled up about those. Well, they could refuse to serve conservatives. Hey, man, it's my art in the cup, and I don't want this art being used by bigots. Just saying. Look, the ruling, as I said, is very narrow in scope to try to prevent some of these other situations. But, however, we don't know what the long term is going to what's going to happen in the long term, what kind of precedent this is going to set for other court cases going forward. And that's the worry, right? That's the problem here. When you set one, you end up setting some sort of precedent. That's disastrous in the long run, I think. Now, look, one more thing that I noticed here, reading through the coverage of the ruling, is I keep noticing how the different outlets who covered this, in this case CNN, they tend to go back about how mean the Civil Rights Commission was, right? These are the ones who originally said, no, you have to make the cake for the gay people. We don't care about your personally held religious beliefs. We have a non-discrimination law in our state, in Colorado, that says that you can't discriminate against gay people or black people. You can't keep a service from somebody just because of something that you don't like about them, whether they be black or homosexual in this case. So, in my response to that, and I love how they keep pointing that, they were so mean. They were so mean to this guy for his sincerely held religious beliefs. What are you, fucking snowflake? I'm sorry, did the commission hurt your feelings? Are you mad that the commission came down on your bigot ass? Apparently so. Apparently so. Look, these are the same people, by the way, on the same side of people who say and wear shirts that say fuck your feelings. But when it's their feelings, when it's their sincerely held religious beliefs, or any sort of sincerely held belief, well, how dare you? How dare you attack that? We are so delicate. We're so delicate. Now, Kennedy wrote, the neutral consideration to which Phillips was entitled was compromised here. So the whole point is like, well, businesses are supposed to be, the government's supposed to be neutral when it comes to, the right of gay people to get service, but the right of business owners to have their own religion, or businesses themselves to have their own religious beliefs. He said, the commission's hostility was inconsistent with the First Amendment's guarantee that our laws be applied in a manner that is neutral towards religion. They were hostile, right? Well, let me tell you why I believe that they were hostile. Because the whole thing is ridiculous. Look, the whole argument is, well, if I make a a cake for a gay wedding, well, then I'm making it in support of that gay wedding, and that makes me uncomfortable. No. See, you making a cake for a gay wedding doesn't make you in support of gays, and it doesn't make you gay. Just like baking a Confederate flag cake doesn't make you a loser. Because, I wonder if it would just be, like, my favorite Confederate flag cake would be white, by the way. Vanilla. Just saying. Do your jobs. Come on. Just because somebody makes you feel, ooh, icky, uncomfortable, oh, they're gay, oh my God, I can't make a cake for those guys. Because I don't like them. No, do your fucking job or get out of the cake making business. Now, let me give you the rest of the opinion of the court, right? Quote, the outcome of cases like this and other circumstances must await further elaboration in the courts, all in the context of recognizing that these disputes must be resolved with tolerance without undue respect or disrespect to sincere religious beliefs, and without subjecting gay persons to indignities when they seek goods and services in an open market. But see, here's the problem. It is an indignity. Look, if you are uncomfortable with possible clientele coming into your shop and asking for a service, then maybe you shouldn't be doing this service. I go back to the Muslim butcher, right? Oh, no, I don't want to cut ham or bacon because it might offend Allah. Well, then stop being a fucking butcher. Get another job. If your religious beliefs get in the way of you doing your fucking job, then I don't want you doing that job. Oh, but I want to make cakes. I'm good at cakes. Well, then make your own fucking cakes for yourself. Don't go into business unless you want to serve everybody who wants a cake that comes through that door. Within reason, of course. I mean, like, let me give you an example. There are gas stations, no shoot, no shoes, no service, right? That's fine. Because that's not discrimination based on orientation or skin color. It's based on, you ain't got no fucking shoes. Get out of here. Go put some shoes on. Go put some sandals on. Wear bread bags for all I care. But wear something when you come in my store. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. What I do have a problem is, oh, you're gay? I don't want to serve you. Oh, you're black? I don't want to serve you. And I don't see a difference between those two things. I just don't see those two things as different. They are. But anyway, look, again, this indignity, right? That's the whole point of the Civil Rights Commission in the first place. To solve this. Look, if you think that baking a cake for a gay wedding is so horrible that you can't bring yourself to do it, like, oh man, God's going to send me to hell for baking that cake. Well then, look, you don't belong in business. I'm sorry. You don't belong in that business. Simple as that. Now that leads me to the dissent penned by Notorious RBG, joined by Justice Sonia Sotomayor. They argued that when a couple contacts a bakery for a wedding cake, the product they are seeking is a cake celebrating their wedding, not a cake celebrating heterosexual weddings or same-sex weddings, and that is the service the couple were denied. It was simply a cake. That's it. They were denied a service that no one else was denied based on orientation. And it's all because Philip Skygod would be unhappy with him. I thought we lived in America, not Saudi Arabia, not where somebody's religious beliefs rule over everyone else. America's supposed to be secular, where everybody's treated equally, irregardless of religion. Now, in this case, is the cake maker not allowed to believe in his religion? Is the government telling you, no, you cannot be Christian? No. He's saying, look, if you're in business, you have to treat everyone equally. At home, you can hate gays however much you want. But when you're in your store, and when somebody asks you to bake a normal wedding cake for them, but replace the little, figurine of a woman with a dude, That's not that hard. That's not that much to ask. I mean, look, you've got to service everyone within reason, or you should service no one at all. This whole thing makes me want to convert to Christianity, open up a seafood restaurant, and decide not to serve shrimp. Shrimp is an abomination. It's in the Bible. Look it up. Now, how successful would I be doing that kind of thing? No, I serve seafood, except that I don't serve seafood because seafood in the Bible is banned. Well, not very successful. And by the way, along with shrimp and gays, God also hates mixed fibers. So you better not wear anything polyester or a blend. It makes you wonder why modern Christians, who it's so obvious what's in the Bible, are not boycotting Long John Silver's, Red Lobster, and The Gap. Just saying. It's hypocrisy, right? And it's cherry picking the Bible in order to discriminate other Americans. That's the problem that I have. Okay? And unfortunately, what we have is a Supreme Court that is not only incredibly conservative, but is also incredibly pro-business, pro-corporate, right? So much so that now, I mean, you look back to Hobby Lobby, right? Your businesses apparently now have religious beliefs. No, they're corporations. That's it. They're legal fictions. They don't have religious beliefs. They're there to serve you, to get into a contract with you. You give them money, they give you whatever product and service you paid for, and that's it. And that's it. Look, conservatism has gone insane. It is no surprise to me, thanks to shit like this, that more and more Americans are now becoming unaffiliated with religion in general. And personally, I cannot wait until the day that people embrace logic and reason and abandon their sky gods. I'm not saying like I would ban religion. I want this to become like a natural evolution, an actual evolution of rational thought. And that day, to me, can't come soon enough. Okay. I think I've made myself pretty fucking clear. Let's move on. Oh, look, I've talked about how the system in America is pretty much rigged in favor of the wealthy and rigged against regular people. Now, our country right now lives by the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. You only have to look to our corrupt campaign finance system as evidence of that. You give politicians money, and they do whatever the fuck you want them to. And that's it. Now, as a result of this, there is socialism for the rich in the form of massive subsidies and tax breaks and giveaways, and rugged individualism for the poor. And we see this in everyday society. Now, the UN, in its latest report, backs that up. Now, in their most recent report, they actually target the Trump administration, and they said that they took a situation that was already pretty bad, extreme inequality that was going on under President Bush and President Obama as well, and through their policies actually made it worse. Now, the report was published by Philip Alston. Now, he is the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty and Human Rights. He is also Australian. So I think he would understand from an outside perspective how fucked up our system actually is. Now, what he did is he basically came to America and he toured some of the most poverty-stricken areas in America. Now, he actually went to San Francisco, I believe, or someplace in California, or different places throughout California, which, of course, There is a bit of a homelessness crisis going on because of housing prices are so expensive. And he also went to places like Alabama. Now, in his report, he found that the American dream is rapidly becoming the American illusion. The equality of opportunity, which is so prized in theory, is in practice a myth, especially for minorities and women, but also for many middle-class white workers. Now, he is absolutely right about that. It is a myth. There is no upward mobility anymore. It is very, very difficult to do to climb the ladder because so many of the many people who have, many of them have decided to kick the ladder out from behind them. I mean, look, a great example is the welfare state after the New Deal. You had baby boomers who benefited greatly from these New Deal programs. They had, of course, college that was nearly free, or in some cases, absolutely free. They had all these different programs. They had pretty high wages. There was great manufacturing, a lot of jobs. They were able to own homes on one single family income. Well, what did they do? Well, they took that and they voted for Ronald Reagan that dismantled that state and gave tax cuts to a lot of people, but more so, and for the most so, for the rich. And that's one of the big problems that we have. Now, I do have to note that during those times, minorities and women are the ones who still suffered, right? So they suffered under the system no matter what. I mean, back in the 60s, when white working class men were making all that money, women were still not making money, and minorities, of course, were still being denied equal treatment and equal rights. So, and they, of course, were also suffering economically. So to be fair, it's never really been good for African Americans and women and Latinos. And so that's an unfortunate truth that a lot of people still don't like to acknowledge. But anyway, Alston, who toured the United States at the end of last year, condemned the dramatic change of direction in U.S. policies as the Trump administration pursues high tax breaks for the rich and slashes welfare benefits for the poor. So, look, this I think is an extension more of than a new change in policy. It's more of an extension of the establishment. Now, look, President Obama didn't do a whole lot of reversal of Bush policies. Yes, he pushed for a lot of climate policy that was good. And to be fair, he did get a progressive tax system put into place within the ACA. Actually, great progressive tax system in order to pay for it. It was not single payer, however, and that, of course, is very problematic because at the end of the day, it did benefit as many people as it did benefit. It also benefited corporations a lot more. So these policies, as I said, they're more of a continuation of Bush policies, but there wasn't much of a leftward reversal under President Obama, and that's what I'm trying to point out. Nonetheless, President Trump has taken right-wing policies and has basically hit the brake or hit the gas, and has gone even further to the right. Now, this, of course, is tax cuts for the rich and deregulation, as well as punishing the poor. Now, Alston had recalled what was most shocking to him during the tour of the United States. And this is the result of those policies, by the way. He said, quote, "I saw open sewage flowing into back gardens. And that is something you sort of expect in a low-income developing country, but you don't expect it in the United States." Now, this is in response actually to, or this is referring to his trip to Alabama. And there are places where it didn't even have sanitation, basic sanitation services. And again, this is America. This is the wealthiest country in the world, and yet there are places here that don't have sewer systems. I mean, that's insanity. It's absolutely wrong. Now, Another thing that you don't expect, however, in a developed country is high lead levels in the water. Yet, of course, still, Flint also doesn't have drinking water. Still, years, they do not have clean water. Disaster. Now, speaking of disaster, Alston writes that I then went to Puerto Rico, which would definitely be the poorest state in the Union if it were a state. The situation was very grim, even before Hurricane Maria, but obviously exacerbated greatly after it. I'm told I'm not supposed to use the term, but certainly the conditions were very much third world. I met people who were living without any real access to the basic services that we've all come to expect. Wow. Government, he said, is just not an actor. There's no provision of social protections at all. And that, of course, is disastrous. And by the way, the death toll from Maria is anywhere from a few hundred to 10,000 within that range, according to several different studies. And that, of course, look, a lot of those deaths can be attributed to lack of medical care and lack of medical facilities, and the slow response from the Trump administration. They just do not care. Puerto Rico, to a lot of our politicians, is unfortunately an afterthought, which is really, really sad. Now, he continues, I also went to West Virginia, one of the states that did not take the Medicaid expansion, where they have relatively low rates of health insurance, and I saw the extent to which very few government services are provided for people generally. Not just health, but access to the internet and so on. As was explained to me by government officials, if we propose any additional spending in the budget, it's completely out of the question. It's not going to be accepted by the legislature. And yet, we seem to have plenty of money for corporate tax cuts and incentives. That's the problem. It's the politicians. It's the politicians that are saying, no, we can't afford it. We don't want to spend money. Oh, hey, corporation, make it rain up in this bitch. Here you go. Here's all the money that you could ever need. What? We're serving the people. No, you're serving yourselves. You're serving yourselves by getting all these giant donations from these same corporations. Disgrace. And look, West Virginia also has an issue with not having clean water and clean air, thanks, of course, to the coal industry. And you have coal dust, and you have coal ash being dumped into rivers. Now, of course, their legislature is strictly Republicans or purely Republicans, but hell, even the Democrats look like Republicans in West Virginia. So what you get here is a right-wing government that says, if you're poor, well, fuck you. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, what if you don't have any bootstraps? What if you don't have any fucking boots? Sad day for you, man. Now, Olson gets to the heart of what is actually going on here. He says the signature effort by the administration is to insist that people are receiving, who are receiving most of the different types of benefits are actually capable of working and should be doing so. What you've got is a pretty carefully coordinated effort coming, I understand, from the Office of Management and Budget to attach ever more demanding worker volunteer or education requirements to different benefits. Excuse me. That's starting to affect Medicaid, it's starting to affect government housing subsidies, and it's starting to affect food stamps. In all these cases, there are different requirements which either the federal government or state governments have been enabled to impose, which will, in each case, drive some millions of people off the relevant benefit rolls. The government says, but wait, there's full employment, so all these people could work if they want to. Well, already, a large number of people are working, but in fact, that doesn't bring them enough income to survive. And so they still need additional food stamps, they still need access to Medicaid. Simply telling them that they have to work or volunteer for up to 30 hours a week is not going to change any of that. Well, of course, they won't, because that's not the point. See, the Republicans, they like to use welfare reform, which is what they're doing right now, as a racist dog whistle. Now, I mean, what do you think when you hear welfare, right? You don't think of the white family living in a trailer park, do you? Not often. In fact, a lot of people tend to think of the black person living in the hood. That's what they think of when it comes to welfare. Look, it's not like they hide their racism. It's fairly open. It's red meat for the base, who ironically depends on those same programs. But see, these people, they say, well, cut it from them, not from me. No, I'm a good American. I work hard. I work and I do everything that I'm supposed to do. Don't take my benefits. No, it's those lazy black people up the road. Or it's those lazy Mexicans. If they just go get a job. And by the way, Mexicans are trying to steal my job. It doesn't make any sense, but it is about racism. It is about hatred. And of course, the reason that they hate people is because some people will drive it into their heads, the people in power, that no, it's not your fault your life sucks. It's those guys' fault. It's not us. It's them. It's them. Well, look, these Republicans, these politicians, they're going to cut those benefits from you anyway. It doesn't matter if you're white or black or Latino. They're going to cut it from you. And in the case of white people, they're going to blame minorities for cutting your benefits. But the thing is there is only so long that you can keep that con running. Because look, even people who are dumb or deeply partisan will eventually wake up and think, you know what? I'm getting screwed by this system, by my own politicians. It is unsustainable. Now, there's one more thing that I want to talk about here in this report. Now, Olson goes into what the administration's policies are actually about. Tax cuts for the rich, cutting benefits for the poor, and he says this, quote, so my sense is that these are two of the major priorities of the administration. And when they're put together, it doesn't indeed seem to be a very deliberate attempt to punish the poor. I think the assumption is that poor people are, by definition, lazy and undeserving. Excuse me. I think the assumption is that poor people are, by definition, lazy and undeserving, and the appropriate response of government is to punish them and to provide as little as possible. That is what's driving most of the government policy on this issue. That is what they believe. I mean, look, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Latino. If you're poor, they hate you. They despise you. They want to punish you. And look, one of the reasons that conservatives are so, for example, they use things like the Southern strategy to go after African Americans and get the white vote is that it works. I mean, it allows poor white people to look at other people, African Americans, and say, either it's your fault that I'm poor, or I'm better than you. I may be poor, I may be suffering, but at least I'm not like those guys. And so that is very, very beneficial for the people who are in charge, for the people who are wealthy and powerful, because instead of seeing the people who are in power, who are in charge, who are making the laws as a problem, they see their neighbors, and they fight with their neighbors instead of going after the real problem, and that is the wealthy and the powerful. It's not so much race, even though race has a lot to do with it, but it is actually more of a power dynamic. It is the powerful versus the powerless, and they have used those different things to try to distract us and to make us fight each other so that we will never fight them, the real cause of our problems. Okay, I need to take a quick break here because I'm like choking up here, so I got to get something to drink. So stay with me here. I'll be back in a minute. We got one more story. We'll talk about Jon Stewart. Very interesting story here, and we'll be right back. So stay right here. around the nation. All right, everybody, back around the nation right here. TYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Got another great story for you guys today. I know some of you will actually really enjoy this. It's actually my favorite story of the day. So let's get to it. Whoops. Okay. Now, over the weekend, comedian Jon Stewart had participated in a Q&A session, and in it, he went to the defense of Samantha Bee, as well as some other things. All right. Now, on Samantha Bee, who, of course, had said something, I guess you could say was terrible about Ivanka Trump. I actually thought that was kind of spot on, kind of accurate, in the context of an immigration story. Now, of course, the right wing, their hair was on fire. Oh my God, fire Samantha Bee. Fire Samantha Bee. She's terrible. She is the worst. Now, on that, Stewart said, quote, that the right sets up a moral code and decides they're not going to follow it. Well, now he referred, of course, to Roseanne. Now, Roseanne, a couple of days prior, had made a statement about Valerie Jarrett, basically comparing her to a monkey. So that has a long racist context in history, all that stuff. So anyway, now, on Roseanne, well, it's funny that the right went crazy because Roseanne has also used that word on Twitter. And I'm going to say it here. He has said the word cunt. Now, Stewart said, quote, they don't give a shit about the word cunt. That is probably, he says that instead of please, I'm guessing. Now, he also noted, this is from the Daily Beast. He noted that Stewart thought B's apology was a waste of time. He said liberals can never make the right give up its we're the real victims game. Because it's a game, it's a strategy, and it's working. Well, that is absolutely correct. Look, why do you think I say, let's not apologize to these Neanderthals? Why? It's because they're going to use it. They're going to use it against you anyway. So what's the point? Look, it's never been about morality. It's this faux outrage for outrageous sake. I mean, and look, we do have outrage from establishment liberals. I'm going to get to that too. But Republicans walk around saying, with shirts that say, fuck your feelings. Really? I mean, what? So you can't actually go and hurt a conservative's feeling? Well, that's really strange. But anyway, now on to liberal hypocrisy. Now, Stewart said actually something very interesting about the Russia investigation. He said he warned against relying on the Mueller investigation or any other scandal to force Trump out of office before his first term is up. He said, quote, "In the same way that Donald Trump doesn't really care about the word cunt, let's be honest with ourselves. We don't really give a fuck about Russia." He goes on to say, if the Russians had somehow helped Hillary Clinton and had prevented Trump from being elected in the first place, Democrats would have tried their best to look the other way. But now we've got to act like it's super important because we think it could end his presidency. Fuck impeaching the guy. Fuck any of that stuff. Beat him in an election with ideas. Yes. God, I miss Jon Stewart. Look, he's right about this, right? The Democratic Party as a whole does not care about Russia. This is then nothing more, and I've said this before, a cynical ploy to blame their election loss on something else other than their terrible choice in Hillary Clinton. It's also a pipe dream of getting him impeached. I think impeachment is super unlikely. Look, we know the extent of what Russia did to help sway the election. They bought Facebook ads and they ran memes. Wow. I mean, look, this is something that we have probably done to other countries. Now, look, do I think that Donald Trump has done money laundering? Of course he has. Will he get in a little bit of trouble, slap on the wrist for doing some financial crimes? Maybe. And I definitely think he did financial crimes. And that's the stuff, that's the part of the Mueller investigation that actually interests me. I actually think that I actually support that part because, yeah, let's see what kind of financial shit Trump has gotten himself into. But as far as being removed, no, he's not going to get removed. You're not going to remove a sitting president for being a money launderer. I'm sorry. So, look, the point is here, and again, Stewart is correct. Why don't we battle the Republicans? Why don't we battle against Donald Trump? Why don't we resist against Donald Trump by actually doing policy? Good policy that Americans love. Things like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, right? Expanding Social Security, doing Medicare for all, free college, a living wage. For God's sakes, you have these policies that are incredibly popular. Why don't you run on it? Oh, that's because you're not a real resistance. Like you have Heidi Heitkamp that is cozying up with Donald Trump. You have Joe Manchin cozies up with Trump and the Republicans. They are Republicans. They are Republicans. So that's the reason. And our stupid Democratic leaders, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they're like, oh, no, you don't understand. We have to protect the moderates because that's how we'll win an election. No, that's how you lose an election. That's how you lose over 1,000 seats over the last 8 years combined. That's how you lose when you run to the center, which is actually to the right. You win when you run on policy, on good popular policy. The Republicans don't have that. What's their policies? Tax cuts for the rich, deregulation. That's it. Their policies only set up a financial crisis. That's all they're good for. And for funneling more and more money into the hands of the wealthy and the corporations. And that's it. Democrats, you could actually run on policy. And you could actually win. God damn. Don't rely on Mueller. Again, I support the Mueller investigation. I think he should be able to do his investigation. I have no problem with that. Look, if the Republicans can do 7 years of fucking Benghazi, we can handle a year or two of Mueller. That's fine. And look, most likely, there will be some financial crimes. Of course they will. But look, don't rely on Mueller to remove Donald Trump. he's going to probably find that Trump is corrupt. And maybe he does have deals with the Russians. But look, nonetheless, if the situation, and this is what John was getting to, if the situation were reversed, and we had Hillary Clinton in office, and we find out that she had gotten money from the Russians, or help on behalf of the Russians, or whatever country, right? Don't think that liberals wouldn't be out there defending Hillary Clinton, because they would be. Uranium One, selling fracking to the world, endless war in the Middle East. That's what would have happened under Hillary Clinton. Look, Democrats, and we have an example of this, Democrats fell asleep during the Obama administration when all this shit was already going on. Where were you, liberals? Where were you? You were suddenly so outraged about all this stuff. Where were you? All I remember is a small group of progressives in independent media that were actually talking about these real issues. Now, conservatives, of course, were just throwing mud. They were throwing bullshit like, oh, Obama and Hillary are literally the devil. I mean, and they're demonic. They smell like sulfur. When we were here saying, hey, maybe it'd be great if the liberal president, Barack Obama, wasn't doing drone strikes in the Middle East. Well, that would have been great. It's great if we don't do that. Especially signature strikes that kill American citizens overseas. Maybe it'd be great if we didn't do extrajudicial killings. Maybe it'd be great if we didn't run black sites. I mean, where were the rest of you when we were calling out that shit? Where were the rest of you? But I forget, especially when it comes to so-called liberal media, right? They were worthless, partisan hacks. Democrats, you want to win? Run on policy. Stop putting your trust, stop putting your faith in just Mueller, in a Republican, by the way, who is running a Republican investigation into a Republican president, and actually run on policy, real policy. That's the only way that you're going to win. Jon Stewart is 100% correct, and I'm glad that he came out and he had the balls to come out and say this. Okay. All right. Look, I know we didn't have that much today. So, unfortunately, that's all I had time to prepare with my day. Again, I do apologize for, like, not having a show and then putting on a show and not having a lot to do with the show, etc. Today was just one of those incredibly busy days in life, so tomorrow we will have a proper show at the proper time with a proper amount of segments, so we will do that. Tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here, TYT Nation. Might have some more live streams as the days go on, extra stuff, etc. So, all right. Thank you guys. If you haven't already, please like and share. Please subscribe. Thank you again for the super chat for today, Ryan. Also, want to give a birthday shout out here to Raven. You know who you are. Happy birthday, girl. 21st. Hopefully you enjoy it. That's always fun. Happy birthday. All right. So to everybody else, thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you all tomorrow.